Hi everyone, welcome to the CG Armor channel. In this video, I'm going to do something that people have been asking for quite a while on the other videos. I'm going to cover the process of installing and fitting any kind of parts or anything in the Cajun Gun Pro package in a CZ Shadow 2. I'm going to be using a CZ Shadow 2 compact, but the process of doing that in a CZ Shadow 2 full size is absolutely the same. There's no difference whatsoever in the process of having that kit installed between these two models. One disclaimer and a couple things I want to get out of the way before we start. The disclaimer is that everything you're going to see here is, it basically goes without saying that that's my opinion, my view, my way of doing things, and it's merely for entertainment and educational purposes. I am not in any way motivating or incentivizing you to do any modification on your firearm. If you do that, you're going to do that at your own risk, and it's your total responsibility and accountability to do so. Great. With that out of the way, this would be too long of a video if I covered the whole process of disassembly, taking everything apart, installing, fitting the kit, and then put everything apart together. This is all covered in different videos in my channel. So there is one video about taking everything apart, disassembly, a full disassembly of a Shadow 2. There's another video which is, fully assembly, put everything together, put everything back together. And there is a third video about polishing. So all the polishing and all the disassembly and reassembly with this gun, I'm gonna skip those parts in this video. I'm just gonna be talking about the Cajun Gun Pro Kit parts, and I'm going to be showing you how to install each of those parts individually. If there is any fitting or anything, or like all the polishing, it's going to be done outside of the video, but you can see the video that I have on my channel specific about that, and you're gonna have all the information. Basically what I'm saying is you have all the information that you need in this channel. Might not be in this one single video, but you can just look for the other videos and they're there for you. All right, having said that, let's get started. Right, first thing we're going to do here is a little inventory of what you get when you order the Cajun Gun Pro package for Shadow 2. It will come in a FedEx envelope. At least everything that I ordered from them to this day came like this. And if we open the envelope, there will be another brown envelope inside. Yep, sure enough. And your parts are all here. The invoice, and put this aside for now. And we're gonna open this envelope and check the parts inside. We open the envelope and get another bag of goodies here. Perfect. This is not part of the kit, something else I order. This is not part of the kit, something else I order. This is the kit. So let's see what we got here. I'm gonna open the bag, and there'll be a lot of other little bags inside with all the goodies that you need. So it will come with one race hammer. You're going to choose, you have an option to choose, a couple options if you want this like the ring format or square like this at the top. And also if you want stainless steel finish or black DLC like this one. So this person wanted black, so a race hammer. You're gonna get this is kind of the rich reduction kit. You can see here, which will come with a oversized disconnector and a old combat trigger. There's a couple options here too. You can choose the semi-flat trigger or this old combat trigger. This person wanted the old combat one. The semi-flat is a little bit shorter and a little bit more flat. It's still curved, but a little bit less curved than this one. And inside this package, you also get a couple set screws that go in the trigger and a couple pins that you will use to fix the disconnector to the hammer. And that, by the way, this is a T6 disconnector, if you wonder what type of disconnector it is. It's the one that comes in the kit. That way. Next, a floating pin for the trigger. You need this for when you replace the original, the OEM trigger pin. So another bag here, and this is your reduced power trigger return spring. That's going to be part of lightening the trigger pull. Another bag with a couple pins. These are hammer pins. Yeah, that's to use to get the hammer be attached to your disconnector and your hemistrut. So you need 2 pins for that. These pins are the cheap with the pins because the diameter in the race hammer, it's the diameter of the holes is different than the OEM hammer, so you need different pins. The OEM pins will not work. It comes with a billet sear, adjustable sear. That's pretty smart. I love this idea they had of putting a set screw on the top of the sear, so you don't need to fit the safety to it. You can just adjust the screw. So, but it comes with that. It will come with a sear spacer. This is because this sear is kind of, my take on it is that this is universal. This sear can be used on SPO1s and Shadows and Shadow 2s. So SPO1s have a firing pin block, and for that it has to have a gap. I'll show that when I go to the sear cage, but it has to have a gap in the sear cage, so you have the lever that raises with the trigger pull to deactivate the firing pin block. So it then has some space between the sear and the sear cage for that lever to be in. On a Shadow 2, you don't have a firing pin block, so it would be a gap. And because of this gap, they ship this, I think it's aluminum, this little ring of aluminum that you use to fill that gap. And the last but not least, this is the ultralight kit that comes with it, and it comes with a couple mainsprings, a blue and a black. A blue is a 13-pound mainspring, the black is an 11.5. That's the one that I'm going to use. I'm going to use the black one. So the difference here is you're going to have a lighter or heavier pull, particularly in double action. So the 11.5, the black one, will produce a lighter pull than the blue one. And it's okay because you would be thinking about reliability with that. Maybe you have light strikes, but not if you use the extended firing pin that comes with it, and that also comes with a reduced power firing pin spring. So these are all the parts that one is going to need to install the Cajun Gun Pro package in the Shadow 2. So without further ado, let's go get our hands dirty and start installing the parts. Okay, one more thing before we get into swapping parts on the gun. Let's quickly review the tools that you're going to need. A Gunsmith hammer, a T20 Torx, a polymer punch. The polymer punch is not required. It's a good idea, so you're going to see me using it, and all I'm doing with it is trying to prevent the gun to get from getting scratched. So, but a steel punch would work too. It's just a way to keep it, keep the job clean and not scratch anything. You're gonna need a 1/16 punch. 1/16 is this one, at 3/32. You're gonna need a starting punch. Again, not required, but really good idea to help. This is gonna be used once and needs to remove the trigger pin. The small flat screwdriver, that's used only to, also important one, it's gonna be used a few times, but it's to remove the sear spring out of the way so you can take the safety off. A tweezer to remove small parts, springs, detents, etc. A pick, good idea to have this one too. You might not need it, but good idea to have a pick here. Remove springs and small parts of the gun. One of these, not required, but really good idea to have one. Really recommend you to do it. It's a hemostat or forceps, like a locking tweezer, like it locks in the back here. And that's good, particularly to remove the trigger return spring, prevent it to fly anywhere. You're gonna need a block, a gunsmith block, or piece of wood, and I think that you can put the gun on top and work on it without causing any damage to it. You're gonna need a couple Allen wrenches. These Allen wrenches, they come in the kit. So this is a 1.5 millimeter, and it's used to adjust the M3 set screws on the face of your trigger shoe. And this one is not even, it's a really thin one. It's not even 1 millimeter. I think this is more like a 0.8 millimeter Allen wrench. And it's gonna be used to adjust the adjustable sear set screw. It comes in the same bag that the adjustable sear is. And then you're gonna need red Loctite, blue Loctite, and some acetone to clean everything before you Loctite. So now let's get to swapping parts. Okay, so gun has been taken apart one more time. I'm not covering disassembly and reassembly anything on the gun. This is covered on other videos in the channel. You'll look there, you'll see there is a very detailed video on how to take a Shadow 2 apart. Just use that video and you find out how to get to this point, where basically the only thing that's due in the gun is the mag release button, the slide stop, spring, and the trigger bar spring on it. Everything else has been taken out. So I'm going to start. Another thing I'm not covering here, and it's also covered in a separate video, and I said that in the beginning, I'm going to say it again just in case you skip the whole thing to this part, is polishing. I've already polished this trigger bar where I thought it needed to be polished. If you want to find out about, you know, how to do this, where you should polish, how you should polish, there is also a video specifically covering that. So go to that video and you find out how to get to this point. So this trigger bar has been polished. This hammer strut has been disconnected from the hammer and also polished. So this hammer, the original hammer, original disconnector, I'm not using anything else. So I'm not gonna throw it away. I'm gonna return to the owner, but it's not gonna be used for anything else from that point on. The first thing I'm going to do here is get my trigger bar reassembled. So for that, I need this package, the rich reduction package that will come with the trigger shoe. At this point, I just want the trigger shoe from the package. There is also a disconnector and a couple set screws. Let's just keep the trigger shoe out for now. Actually, you also want the set screws. That's a good idea, to put the set screws. Just don't adjust them, just put them up, put them in the trigger shoe at this point while you have the trigger shoe out of the gun. Much easier to do that now than with the trigger shoe in the gun. So what I'm gonna do here is get this, clean it up with some acetone. Actually, use acetone. You can use brake cleaner, is a great cleaner too. So get some brake cleaner, and I'm going to clean both the set screws, put them up, a little bit of a brake cleaner, let them soak a little bit on it. And the reason I'm using some brake cleaner or acetone, whatever powerful degreaser of your choice, is you don't want any oil in these set screws when they go in the trigger shoe. You do the same with the trigger shoe threads. You get some, in this case I'm gonna get some acetone. It's just easy to put in a Q-tip. Get a Q-tip here, put some acetone, and clean those threads in the trigger shoe where the set screws are going to go in. You don't want any kind of oil grease on it. That's going to interfere with your Loctite working well. So the package comes with a Allen wrench. You're going to use this Allen wrench here to put the set screws in. So try not to touch them with my greasy hands again. The longer set screw go into the bottom hole, and the shorter set screw goes into the top. The longer adjusts post travel, and the shorter one adjusts pre travel. So this one goes in like that, and then the other one goes in like so. Right. We got both set screws in the trigger shoe, and now we can go to get the next thing. Here is going to be the trigger return spring. To get the trigger return spring from the package, I already removed the original one. Again, the disassemble video is going to explain to you how to do that in a safe way so it doesn't fly anywhere. Get the reduced power trigger return spring. I'm going to use, I believe the package, what's the package in there? This power, it normally comes with a little how to say, roll pin that you can use as a slave pin. I use one of this stainless steel slave pins here, but you can use that. You can use a piece of Q-tip broken up. As long as you use something to make a slave pin, it's always it makes installing the trigger return spring much easier. I need the trigger pin too to put the trigger back into the trigger bowl. So let me find the trigger pin here in the parts. So it's somewhere here. There we go. So that's the original trigger pin. We just reuse it. So it goes into the bottom. All right, got that. It should move freely like that. Okay, once you get this done, we're gonna use the slave pin. The trigger return spring goes this way with the shorter leg in and the longer leg out of the trigger shoe. I'm gonna put that, hold with my fingers here. You need to make sure that your set screw, your pre-travel set screw is not in the way. Sometimes you get in the way of the trigger return spring, get it where it's supposed to be. This case was okay. I hold with my fingers like that, and I put the slave pin in. Slave pin is in, and it's supposed to be like that. So slave pin right there, trigger return spring in place, and the whole trigger bar assembly is one piece together. Now I'm going to put this back in the gun. Before I put back in the gun, I'm going to take advantage that this is out, put a little bit of oil, just a little, like a drop of oil on each side, and really just like spread with my fingers here on its side. On the rails here in the bottom, this is where your trigger bar spring is gonna contact the trigger bar. So put a little bit of oil there. It's just really a drop, not more than that. A little bit of oil in this areas here too, where it's gonna be touching the bottom of the safety in each side, and it should be good to go. I'll put that back. All right. Once the trigger bar assembly is back in the gun, I'm gonna go press with my index finger here and pull the trigger back at the same time with my other hand, making sure that the trigger return spring, that leg of the trigger return spring, I got a pick here to show you, that leg of the trigger return spring is within this notch here. That's important. Once it is there, I'm going to push down with my right hand index finger and then get my trigger adjusted with my hand here until that slave pin is aligned with the hole where the trigger pin needs to go through. I need to find light here in a position that helps me out. Once it's aligned, you get a punch. You can get the floating pin directly here and hammer it in directly. I like to put a punch and then replace the punch with the pin. I feel it's safer this way. Not let my trigger return spring fly anywhere. And you can also, I'm not seeing these 100%, so I'm gonna be better safe than sorry here and put my clip here. Make sure I get the trigger return spring clipped and not gonna fly anywhere. I'm not seeing this 100% as I should see. There we go. Let's go in, and it's the slave pin comes out. Now you got the punch replacing the slave pin, and everything is back where it's supposed to be. I'm going to use the block, and this block has a hole here that the punch is going to go through like that. See? And I'm going to go to the edge of the table here, hold the punch with my hand, push it down until it opens space so I can align the floating pin in. And that's the next part we're going to go in, get in, is the floating pin. So get the package here, get your floating pin out of the package. You might want to lightly lubricate the end that's going to go in the gun, so it slips in easier. It's just really a tiny bit of oil. You can barely see it. Actually, you can't see it. Right? It's just a film of oil around it. Go there. Make sure as you're pushing with your finger, you're actually pushing the punch. So this is already in the way. That's going to go, and then get a hammer. Yep. And then it's a one punch, confident one punch. That's it. Now my punch is out. And I said one punch, one strike, right? One hit. I can take this off. My trigger return spring is secure. Use a punch to drive the rest of the floating pin in, and your trigger bar is reassembled and reinstalled. Now if I do that, it should be really smooth, like no friction whatsoever. That feels pretty good. I don't feel any kind of friction here. That is pretty good. So next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna work on the hammer and then the sear and put everything back together. All right, to put the hammer together, the hammer assembly, if you will, we're gonna need the race hammer. So get your race hammer out of the bag. The hammer strut, the original hammer strut, gets back into the picture here. You're going to need the disconnector, the new disconnector, the T6. And we will see if this is oversized or not. I think Cajun has done adjustment to their production line in a way that this basically is more of a drop in than anything else. So lately I found very few of these need to be fitted. I'm gonna hope that this one is oversized and needs to be fitted, because when you do that, you get the best outcome possible. If it's a drop in, then it is what it is. Once it drops in, that's it. You have the amount of pre-travel and everything else that is with it. You can't really play much with. You can't really do much of an adjustment on it. So disconnector, hammer strut. So here's the thing. Here's the important thing. Like, the bag for the reach reduction kit will come with pins. Those pins are supposed to be used with the original hammer. Since I'm using the race hammer, that's why I'm going to use the other bag that says H pin, the hammer pin. That's to be used with the race hammer. So get those. Why you're doing that? They're different diameters. So if you try to push these ones in, they have one of the side larger than the other. And you could put too much stress in the hammer and break, actually, as you hammer the pin in, force it in. This diameter is really more of these ones here, these pins. So the two pins that come in a separate bag, the hammer, the disconnector, and the hammer strut. So I'm gonna move the camera to the other side where I have the vise, and I'll show you how to do it there. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do here is get my hammer. So here's the trick. I got this flat base of my vise, and I have a magnet. So my hammer is gonna be there in a magnet without moving. I put the hammer strut in the position that I want, and the hammer strut goes back in like this. Like, that's how it's supposed to go in, with that kind of a belly here towards pointing forward in the gun. So this goes that way. To make sure it's aligned, I'm gonna put the race hammer in a magnet here, put the hammer strut aligned there, get a punch, that 1/16 punch that we've been using for everything so far, and just go in the hole and make sure everything is aligned. Perfect. Got one of those pins, one of those little pins that we talked about. I failed to mention this as a tool, as a possible tool that you could use. I like to use this to drive that pin in. So just the pin goes, maybe you have a better diameter, another one here. Yeah, this is better. So the pins goes on top of this, and this goes in. I'm gonna do a little bit of lubrication again, less than a drop here. That was even too much. And this, take the punch out, put the pin back in, get my hammer and drive it in. Back there. Get just a larger punch and finish driving in. It should go flush like this. That's your hammer strut already in place. Now we're going to do the same with the disconnector. Put it back in the magnet, get my disconnector, get into place. Disconnector goes in as a hook pointing forward, like so. So I'm going to put it here. Get my punch again to line up, my 1/16 punch, line the holes up. And that's one of those strong neodymium magnet, so it won't really break. And I'm not really hitting this too hard or anything, so totally fine. Get the same pin alignment punch, however you call this. Educate me. Tell me how you call this in English. I have no idea. I should know. I bought this. I don't remember how I call this up. So it goes in, drive it in, get a larger punch, and it goes all the way in. Again, flush. You need to make sure it's flush and moving freely like that. So it's flush on both ends, both sides, and it's moving freely, both the disconnector and the hammer strut. All right, we'll go back, put this in the gun. We'll go back now, work with the Sear, and then put everything back in the gun and see how it works. All right, we're back to this side of the bench, of the working bench. Let's work with the Sear. So hammers put together with the disconnector, hammer strut, great. Put it aside. let's work with the sear. So this is the ejector or sear cage, however you want to call it. I'm gonna take it apart. Just get a 3/32 punch pin. You drive that pin that holds everything together. Drive it out with the punch. You don't need to hammer anything. Just put your fingers, like pinch the sear like this, so the spring is not gonna fly anywhere if it goes out of shape here. Push the pin out. You're gonna reuse this pin. Now push the punch out, and then let go. And that will be enough to get your sear spring out of the way and your sear itself out of the way. Perfect. I'm gonna get this just a little bit, put this aside. That's my sear spring. I'm gonna reuse it. I'm not replacing the sear spring on this project. You can tell me in the comments if you've seen much benefit of replacing the sear spring. I've done that before, and honestly, not much of a difference replacing sear springs by reduced power sear springs or anything like that. I actually like to have a strong sear spring. What is my sear package? There you go. Get the adjustable sear. This is what we're gonna use now. Be careful, there's a very small set screw. Okay, the set screw is in the sear, so you're not gonna lose it. Great. That's the sear. That's the set screw that's gonna be used to adjust the engagement with the safety. Great idea from Cajun. Again, I'll always, send compliments for their ingenuity and come up with this idea. This is great. Without this, you need to fit the safety or the sear to match each other when you replace that. So that's good. This is I told you that it comes with the Allen wrench. So you want to roll this actually out a little bit, otherwise it won't work initially. And we're gonna put it all together. There's one more part we need, the spacer. So you got that bag with the spacer, got that little aluminum spacer out of the bag. And we're gonna put everything together again. So the sear comes, sear cage, sear comes. I'm not gonna do any polishing or anything here. I didn't feel it needed. This gun has been used in competition already, so it has kind of a lot of rounds, so natural polishing already happened here. I don't need to do anything with it. So I'm just gonna put the sear back in place here. And it goes like this. You get your ejector pointing to the left like this. The sear goes underneath, or the other way. Sear goes underneath with the set screw pointing forward, and it goes like that. You hold it together with your middle finger here on the right hand. And as you do that, you bring that little spacer, and the spacer is gonna go here, in this space right here. See this space? That's where you want that spacer to go. I mentioned this before, I'm gonna say it again. The spacer is there because this is kind of a universal adjustable sear. It works for SPO1 and Shadow 2. So the SPO1, I'm going to remind you, it has the firing pin block, and the Shadow 2 doesn't. So if the firing pin block is present, you need a space between the sear and the ejector here for the lifter arm of the firing pin block to be in. So this one doesn't have it, so you can go straight with the spacer. I'm going to use a 3/32 punch to make sure everything is aligned and everything's in place. There we go. That's what you're supposed to see. Of course, it's missing the spring. Now I'm going to retrieve the punch a little bit, just enough to get the spring on, and then put the spring. Spring goes with the longer leg pointing forward and the shorter leg pointing back. So I'm going to put this. It's hard to show this on camera, but I'm going to just position the spring on top of it like you see here, and I'm going to use my thumb on the left hand to press the spring down while I push the punch out of the way. As soon as the punch clears the spring, I'm going to go back and get it. There we go. And get it through the spring and the sear at the same time. So this is reassembled. Now all we need to do is drive the original pin, the sear pin, inside to replace the punch, and everything is going to be back where it's supposed to be. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to pull the punch a little bit just to leave it a gap so the pin can start going in. As the pin goes in, I'm going to push it and adjust and push and adjust to make sure it is moving with my finger. It's moving the punch out to the other side. Once that's happening, you get the hammer and you just hammer it in. Your punch comes out in your hand and your sear is reassembled. Make sure everything is functional here. Yeah, there's enough pressure. Sear is working fine as it should. And that's good to go. It's good to be back in the gun. Now, everything that needs to be done has been done. We will need to replace the original mainspring. That's the original mainspring. it's gonna go out, and I'm gonna replace that with the black or 11.5 pound mainspring. And I see that there is the extended firing pin here. We're gonna do that last, which is swap that by the original firing pin and the spring. All right, to put everything back together, what I'm not gonna do now is I'm not gonna put the safety detents and everything, because I want to make sure that this disconnector is actually a drop-in, doesn't need to be fitted, because if it needs to be fitted, I need to take everything apart again to work on a disconnector. So I'm just gonna put the hammer with the hammer pin, not even the hammer counter pin, that pin that goes vertical, perpendicular to the hammer pin. I won't put that right now, because that's kind of a lock to lock the pin in place, and I might need to take it out. And I'm not gonna put the safety detents. I'm just gonna put the safety on the right side. I'm gonna go with the safety from the left side through the Sear to make through the ejector to make sure everything stays in place. But I'm not gonna lock anything right now, because I want to make sure that the disconnector is okay. So what goes in now is your hammer assembly. Line up the pin here. Bring your hammer pin. Your hammer pin always go from the left to the right of the gun. That's the only way to get it in, because it's flanged on one side. It's large on one side and it's not going to go in. So that goes in. Perfect. Hammer is in. It's moving free, no problem. I don't feel any friction or anything here. Anything that I need to address here, great. Now safety. Now the Sear goes in. The Sear cage goes in. Just align this in the right place here. Get the safety. Safety goes through into a certain point. It will stop, and when it stops, because you need to get the Sear spring out of the way. So that longer leg of the Sear spring is on the way now. Move it out. Beautiful. Now push this back, and everything goes in. And it's in. Perfect. So now what I want to see here is if I have any pre-travel after I put the hammer in and I cock the hammer. I don't have any mainspring here, but I can simulate pressure on the hammer just by pushing the hammer with my thumb. And then I want to see if there's any pre-travel. So there is a good amount of pre-travel here. So I am confident that I'm not going to need to work anything in this disconnector, which is unfortunate, because then this pre-travel is going to be there and there's nothing I can do about it. I could take this pre-travel out if this disconnector needs to be fitted, but I don't think it will. We'll see. I'm going to get the mainspring back. And this mainspring is much lighter than the original one, so it's much easier to go in. Counter pin in. Yeah, there's a good amount of pre-travel here now, which tells me it's not going to need to be, the disconnector won't need to be fitted. Now I'm going to get the slide in, the slide lock. Yeah. Reset, some pre-travel, and it breaks. Yeah, no need to fit the disconnector. I'm going to take it out and show you where I would fit it. So it's unfortunate that I can't show you that. Just bad luck. This one came kind of as a drop-in, but it's already a much better trigger than the original one. To start with, you got a much shorter reset, and that's not even as short as it gets, because now we're going to adjust the pre-travel and the post-travel. So if I adjust the post-travel set screw, the one in the middle of the face of the trigger shoe here, that's going to make that reset get even shorter. It's about a 2.5 to 3/4 pound in single. This was 3.5 before, and I got about, I'm going to say 6 pounds, 5.5, 6 maybe in double, against, compared to original 8.5 that was before. So a much better trigger, much shorter. The reach here is much shorter than the original one too. So yeah, we'll see let me take the disconnector off again to show you where we will need to work on. And then we go from there to adjusting the set screws in the trigger, and you'll be job done. Right, I just took everything apart again to show you this. If the disconnector, if this gun wasn't, if it was not resetting on single action, there was absolutely no pre-travel and it was not resetting at all, then what you would need to do is take material off of this area here on the disconnector. There's also, if you look at my channel, search for disconnector there. There's a video explaining everything you need to know about disconnectors and even mentioning interrupters in the Tenfolio guns, which is kind of the same part. Where to take material off here, what does that do, and why would you do that, and the same thing on this area here. So anyways, this is where we would fit the disconnector to make sure you add pre-travel and get it to reset, right? So in this case, it came as a drop pin, so not much we can do about it. I'm gonna put everything together. We're gonna adjust the set screws. I'm gonna do that on video, just set screws and trigger. And I failed to mention, we need to adjust the set screw in the Sear as well, according to the safety. So what I'm going to do now is put everything together with the detents, with everything locking counter pin for the hammer pin, and the gun will be back together. Again, there's a video for that on reassembling on my channel. I'm not going to explain to you how to do this right now, but so I'm going to skip to a fully assembled gun. Okay, gun is back put together. I forgot, sorry, the extended firing pin. So let's get the firing pin out of the bag. This is the bag that comes with it. The ultralight kit comes with the extended firing pin, reduced power firing pin spring, and a couple main springs. I already used the main spring, the black one that was here in the bag. Now we'll get the reduced power firing pin spring, firing pin put together like that. Go into your slide, turn this way, get your plastic punch, polymer punch, push the firing pin in, slide the firing pin plate out, firing pin comes out, spring came out. That's the original one versus the one we're going to replace. So original Cajun gun. That goes back in. Firing pin plate gets into that area. Push the firing pin back in. It's much easier because the spring is much lighter, much weaker. And that's it. Get the firing pin replaced. I'm not going to use this anymore. It becomes a backup or replacement for the owner of the gun. So let's work with the set screws now. So first thing we need to do is we're going to completely remove the set screw from the Sear. And we're going to clean it up with some brake cleaner before we put some Loctite on it. Before we get any back, adjust and put some Loctite. And this one, we're going to use red Loctite. It has to be red Loctite. I'm going to emphasize this because heat or anything can melt down blue Loctite here, and you don't want that to happen, because if this head screw walks out, your safety stops working. If these screws walks in, then your gun stops working. So then it's like the safety will be activated always, even when it's not really activated. So I'm cleaning this up with some acetone this time around. Get some acetone on it. Great. I'm gonna get some acetone on the Q-tip here and the threads of on the Sear as well. I keep saying safety. Sear. All right. I'm gonna dry this out. Here and here. Get this set screw back in. You want to be careful not to stripping or damaging this set screw, because it's not an easy one to find. You're probably going to need to contact Cajun Gun and get another one if you lose it or damage it, because you're not going to find in your hardware store, in your neighborhood hardware store. So I'm going to move it out a little bit more, and I put it here already. Get some red Loctite. Put some red Loctite in the threads. You don't need to do like a huge amount of Loctite. It's just a little bit in the threads, just like it's here. It's actually even too much. Drive it in. Don't know where I put the Allen wrench. Oh, it's right there. It's two there. Drive it in, and here's what you're going to do. You're going to cock the hammer. Oh, look at that. There's something. All right, cock the hammer. Engage the Sear, and then drive this set screw in until it touches the sear, until it stops. Okay, I feel it stop. See if your safety is in and out at ease. Yeah, it's okay. This should be, hold everything and pull the trigger. Hold your hammer to and pull the trigger and see if it's safe. The safety is working with the safety engaged. The safety is working. It's not letting the hammer fall. And that's all you need. Disengage the safety. Make sure your hammer still falls. Yes, it does. Perfect. Clean the excess off. Red Loctite there. And you're good to go. Now you want this Loctite to cure. So you don't want to use this gun for at least 24 hours before before the red Loctite is fully cured. So for the set screws, I also like to, this might be controversial, right? But I like to use red Loctite on the set screws and trigger too. Two reasons. One, once it's adjusted, you shouldn't really need to readjust, right? Once you get to the point that you want, that should be it, and it should stay like that forever. You don't need to move. The other reason is red Loctite is a lot harder to break and a lot more durable than the blue Loctite. So blue Loctite can actually just wear out, and those set screws, those adjustment set screws in the trigger might move in and out, and they can make the gun inoperable. So that's why I like to use red. What if you need to remove? Red Loctite requires heat to do it. Yeah, it's fine because there's no plastic here anywhere. This is all steel and aluminum parts, so you can use heat to remove if you need it. So what I'm gonna do is get I'm gonna use my own Allen wrench here because it's a little longer and makes my life a little easier. But you can use the Allen wrench that comes with the kit. Here's what I'm gonna do now. I'm gonna get the gun assembled. Okay, so I'm going to start with the pre-travel. I'm going to pull it out. Pre-travel is the top one. It's the one at the top right here. The more you get it out, the less pre-travel you have. But if you get it too much, then what happens is your gun stops working. The trigger stops resetting in double. It's what happens right here. Look, I pull it out all the way, and now my trigger doesn't reset anymore, no matter what I do, right? So you need to push it back in until the trigger reset. I always tell everyone, like, push it in. Don't take pre-travel like completely out in double action. You want a little bit of pre-travel just to make sure that your trigger is going to reset every time. There's no reliability issues. So a little bit of pre-travel is not going to do any damage to you. So I'm going to put that red Loctite back in and push the trigger in to get the desired amount of pre-travel. If you can see that, don't know if you can see it. Just gonna go all the way in so the red Loctite gets into the threads. Move out, see how much you have here. Let's do, I think I can take a little bit off more. This is it, look. There is this much of pre-travel, and I'm gonna say this is good enough. I don't wanna take it all away because then you can compromise reliability here, so that's perfect. This is also the less pre-travel you have, the shorter the trigger gets, right? So you're moving the trigger backwards. So in terms of trigger reach, it has an impact on that too, has an influence on that too. So a little bit of pre-travel doesn't hurt. And I'm gonna do the same thing with the post-travel now, the one in the middle of the trigger show here. That one has a simple way to adjust. Well, I'm gonna pull it out so I can put some red Loctite on the threads and then push it back in. Pull it out. Some red Loctite on the threads. That's a little bit too much Loctite, it's fine. Get it in. All right, clean that excess Loctite out of the shoe, out of the trigger, perfect. Now here's how I'm gonna adjust the post travel. I'm gonna cock the hammer, and you need to have enough travel here to break, right? Well, how do you know how much is, like, if you have too much, then it's gonna compromise how short your reset's going to be. So you want the minimum post travel possible, but in a way that your gun is still reliable and there's no issue. So the way I do is get your hammer cocked, pull the trigger, holding your hammer, and see if your hammer, keep the trigger pulled, check how your hammer is going back and forth. It should not be dragging anything. So that's fine, it's not dragging, great. That means I can take a little bit more. I can get my post travel set screw in a little bit more. I'll go half a turn by half a turn. See, it's dragging, even half a turn was too much. It's not even dragging, it's cocked and it won't work, right? So I need to take that off. So I'm gonna pull and get quarter turn back. See if it's dragging. Perfect, it's not dragging. Yeah, it's perfect. That's how you adjust it. You make sure, tuck the hammer, pull the trigger, make sure the hammer is free. If I put any kind of, that was half a turn. If I go a quarter turn, gonna get any closer. That's quarter turn, it's dragging already. See how it's dragging? You can tell. That's not what you want. So even quarter turn was too much. So that was the limit of it. I'm gonna go back that quarter turn. Yeah, perfect. Now this is job done. Went to measure, like I did some control measurement. I forgot to put in the video with this trigger. It's kind of a standard, like about 3 pounds in double and single, and about 8.5, 8 in double. So if you measure now, it is much shorter. I don't have the measurement here on the how further forward this trigger was originally, but you can tell if you just get a picture of a Shadow 2, an OEM one. I don't have an OEM one right now here to show you, but this trigger, the trigger normally is a lot more forward, so that's the reach reduction. The reset, it's a lot shorter, and it breaks. There's a little bit of pre-travel, like I told you. There's nothing I can do about it. It's part of the disconnector being the drop in, and then it breaks. I'm guessing this is about 2 3/4 or 2.5 pounds. Let's see what we got. If I can get that without moving my hand. Yeah, 2 pounds, 10 ounces. The second one. 2 pounds and 7 ounces. So got about 2.5, about that. I can still work on this and can make it a little bit lighter, a little bit crispier. It's not exactly like how I want, to be honest. But it's already a much better trigger than this was originally. So this is it. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed.